Hi, beautiful ones. Welcome back once again to Shelter in the Storm with A Course in Miracles, Lesson 55. We're still reviewing. Okay, we're still reading Chapter 4, Part 2. The Illusions of the Ego is the chapter. Part 2 is called The Ego and False Autonomy. Only those who have a real and lasting sense of abundance can be truly charitable. This is obvious when you consider what is involved. To the ego, to give anything implies that you will have to do without it. When you associate giving with sacrifice, you give only because you believe that you are somehow getting something better, and can therefore do without the thing you give. Giving to get is an inescapable law of the ego, which always evaluates itself in relation to other egos. It is therefore continually preoccupied with the belief in scarcity that gave rise to it. Its whole perception of other egos as real is only an attempt to convince itself that it is real. Self-esteem, in ego terms, means nothing more than that the ego has deluded itself into accepting its reality, and is therefore temporarily less predatory. This self-esteem is always vulnerable to stress, a term which refers to any perceived threat to the ego's existence. The ego literally lives by comparisons. Equality is beyond its grasp, and charity becomes impossible. The ego never gives out of abundance, because it was made as a substitute for it. That is why the concept of getting arose in the ego's thought system. Appetites are getting mechanisms, representing the ego's need to confirm itself. This is as true of body appetites as it is of the so-called higher ego needs. Body appetites are not physical in origin. The ego regards the body as its home and tries to satisfy itself through the body. But the idea that this is possible is a decision of the mind, which has become completely confused about what is really possible. The ego believes it is completely on its own, which is merely another way of describing how it thinks it originated. This is such a fearful state that it can only turn to other egos and try to unite with them in a feeble attempt at identification, or attack them in an equally feeble show of strength. It is not free, however, to open the premise to question, because the premise is its foundation. The ego is the mind's belief that it is completely on its own, and the ego's ceaseless attempts to gain the spirit's acknowledgement and thus establish its own existence are useless. Spirit, in its knowledge, is unaware of the ego. It does not attack it. It merely cannot conceive of it at all. While the ego is equally unaware of spirit, it does perceive itself as being rejected by something greater than itself. This is why self-esteem in ego terms must be delusional. The creations of God do not create myths, although creative effort can be turned to mythology. It can do so, however, only under one condition. What it makes is then no longer creative. Myths are entirely perceptual, and so ambiguous in form and characteristically good and evil in nature that the most benevolent of them is not without fearful connotations. Okay, we'll leave our text there for today and continue on with part 2 of chapter 4 tomorrow. Let us move along with lesson 55. Feeling a bit warm. Today's review includes the following: lessons 21 through 25. 21. I am determined to see things differently. What I see now are but signs of disease, disaster, and death. This cannot be what God created for His beloved Son. The very fact that I see such things is proof that I do not understand God. Therefore, I also do not understand His Son. What I see tells me that I do not know who I am. I am determined to see the witnesses to the truth in me, rather than those which show me an illusion of myself. 22. What I see is a form of vengeance. The world I see is hardly the representation of loving thoughts. It is a picture of attack on everything by everything. It is anything but a reflection of the love of God and the love of His Son. It is my own attack thoughts that give rise to this picture. My loving thoughts will save me from this perception of the world and give me the peace of God. Give me the peace God intended me to have. 23. I can escape from this world by giving up attack thoughts. Herein lies salvation, and nowhere else. Without attack thoughts, I could not see a world of attack. As forgiveness allows love to return to my awareness, I will see a world of peace and safety and joy. And it is this I choose to see, in place of what I look on now. 24. I do not perceive my own best interests. How could I recognize my own best interests when I do not know who I am? What I think are my own best interests would merely bind me closer to the world of illusions. I am willing to follow the guide God has given me to find out what my own best interests are, recognizing that I cannot perceive them by myself. Excuse me. 25. I do not know what anything is for. To me, the purpose of everything is to prove that my illusions about myself are real. It is for this purpose that I attempt to use everyone and everything. It is for this that I believe the world is for. Therefore, I do not recognize its real purpose. The purpose I have given the world has led to a frightening picture of it. Let me open my mind to the world's real purpose by withdrawing the one I have given it and learning the truth about it. There we have lesson 55. And now we shall move to the Year of Forgiveness, Jesus' commentary on the lesson, on the review lesson. Excuse me, my hair is tickling my face. It's distracting me. Whew, here we go. Lesson 55, Review 1, Part 5. You are blessed beings, indeed. I am that one you know as Jesus. It is a wonderful gift you give yourself today to review these lessons. Some have different wording than in the original text. Your mind notices. But we want you to understand that we speak about principles and ideas. The reason for changing the words is so that you do not become too dogmatic. You might notice some religious institutions on your plane use individual words inflexibly, depending on who translated the original text into English or French, or whatever language you read it in. We want you to understand these lessons are not about hard and fast facts and rules. That is the ego's world, or the world of the ego, the quantifiable and the measurable. You are used to that system. We use slightly different words so that you see the meanings behind their symbols and do not get too hung up, as one tends to do in this society, on specific words. Words are symbols of symbols. When you translate the language of ancient text into another language and continue with many iterations through history, you have symbols of symbols of symbols. This is what you are faced with in many of your religious dogmas. This is one of the reasons we channel through this being, for you to hear it firsthand and to have elaborate explanations given to you over time on every given day, so that you do not become obsessed with the details. This does not mean that accuracy is not important, but we do not want you to become compulsive or dogmatic. We want you to have a relaxed diligence in your practice. That means you let go of control, fear, and judgment. But you practice. You can be both diligent and relaxed. The ego wants control, and it wants to be precise. It wants to measure things immediately. It's based in time, and it uses the body. It's important for you to understand the principles we want to cultivate. We want you to be relaxed, be happy, be open, and feel good. These are some of the clues you get from your new experience. Your new experience of those nice feelings is your feedback system saying, "Well done, you're on track." If you become too obsessive about the lessons, or too fearful when you miss one, then you might feel a negative emotion. That is your guidance system saying, no, don't do it that way. Let us continue on the path of diligent relaxation. Your guidance system is constant and accurate. You always know whether you feel good, happy, relaxed, contented, curious, creative, and imaginative. Sleepy is a little different, but it's okay. If you feel that overwhelming urge to take a nap, do not resist it. Do not think that you are being lazy. The thought, "I am being lazy," is the thing that gives you a bad feeling about napping or resting. It is not the feeling of resting itself. Very important point. These are some of the discernments you master as you go through these lessons. You begin to feel how to do these lessons and how to be in the world. You go from high-strung, high-stressed, controlling, argumentative, and accusatory to relaxed, open, less focused on time, healthier, and more pleasant to be around. I am that one you know as Jesus, and we will see you again tomorrow. Thank you, dearest ones. Namaste.